it is a case of you want to forget the problem, but the problem is a gift. If you see everything, every single situation in your life is a lesson. It's not a problem. It's a lesson. And the moment you change your mindset to think that way, I think it really opens up a lot of personal growth.
Welcome to Great Conversations with Nicola O'Donoghue, the podcast where everyday individuals share their extraordinary stories of struggle, success, and the wisdom they found along the way. Welcome back, lovely listeners. Happy New Year. So we all feel the weight of the New Year, New You cliche, but what if we embraced self-acceptance over reinvention? I'm excited to kick off 2024 and season 3 of Great Conversations with a powerful episode featuring the incredible Shirleyann Haig. Shirleyann is a single mum of 2, the CEO of Haig Property Solutions, and someone who has experienced firsthand the transformative power of embracing your authentic self. In this episode, Shirleyann vulnerably shares her decision to amicably divorce her husband of 22 years after COVID helped her to finally accept that their different qualities and needs meant they could never make each other happy. Parenting 2 boys, one of whom is autistic and the other has ADHD, adds another layer to Shirleyann's story. I can't help but think that hers is a love story, and that at its core, love is simply an act of embracing and nurturing individuality. What I love about Shirleyann's story is that it's a testament to the idea that balance, success, and fulfillment unfold when we lead with self-awareness, embracing our true selves and the uniqueness of those around us. I hope that this episode sparks self-discovery and empowers you to navigate the new year with grace, tenderness, and acceptance. Enjoy. Shirleyann Haig, welcome to Great Conversations. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. I truly, really appreciate it. Shirls, you've been left a great question by the last guest. If you had a chance to talk to your younger self, how would you describe balance and the importance of maintaining it across your life?
So this is an interesting one for me. I don't think I have ever managed to achieve balance in my life. I think, so I've recently discovered through my son getting diagnosed with ADHD that I am identical to him, and I have undiagnosed ADHD. I'm waiting for a formal diagnosis. And one of the things that comes with that, the type that I have, is hyperactivity. And through hyperactivity, as a woman with ADHD, I tend to always work at, double capacity to most people around me. I'm a people pleaser. I always put everybody else's needs before my own. And this can sometimes come at the detriment to my own sanity, my own mental health, my own physical health. So something that I've discovered recently is because I'm ADHD, I am prone to burnout. So over the years, I've been running at, this high capacity. I've always worked and studied. Like, I've got 3 degrees. I've always worked full time. When I was at school, I was working full time. When I was at college, I was working full time. When I was at uni, I was working full time at the same time. And then when I graduated and I got a job, I went back to uni and got further qualifications. When I kind of got a full-time job and thought, right, I need to kind of chill out a bit, I decided to set up a property development company and started investing in housing. So I've always worked at a really high capacity, but that in turn has now come at a cost, and it has started affecting my physical health. So yeah, I would say, in answer to your question, I am absolutely terrible at getting the balance right in my own life. Now that I'm in my, late 40s, it's time that I need to start looking after myself, because my body isn't as accommodating as it used to be in terms of, giving me a bit of leeway when I did reach burnout.
So as you say, there's part of it which is like with your ADHD and with the way that you show up in the world, that is who you are. So then how then can you define balance for yourself in a way that works for you as a unique, beautiful individual, that then might help? Because I feel like this is one of the things that we've all got. We've got this concept of balance, but actually what the hell does it mean? And I think it means different things to us at different parts in our life.
There's loads of different models out there where you look at your life holistically and you take all the different elements of your life. And I think it's important to revisit that regularly. I've only just started doing that more recently, and I didn't do it when I was younger. And I think if I had have done, where, you get the wheel of life and you look at your health, your relationships, your work, your social life, and you look at all the different elements. For me, I think balance is about looking at that on a regular basis and saying, where am I going well? What am I doing really well in my life? And where am I slightly off? I think if I'd have looked at that regularly from a younger age, I think I would have made different choices. I think on top of that as well, I've now discovered I do a lot of yoga, a lot of breathing exercises. I've realized that the rest and restore is incredibly important for me to maintain this high capacity that I run at. So I think if I just spoke, if I can speak to my younger self, it would be include more activities which give you the capacity to rest and restore. So what I have tended to do over the years, and I think it's certainly common with people with ADHD, is because our brains never switch off and because our bodies don't switch off, we can sometimes turn to, alcohol is one of the things that I would, quite often I'll drink, and I'll drink too much. Like, I don't drink often, but when I do drink, I drink a lot to turn just to quieten my thoughts. And I think what I've discovered as I've got older is there's other ways of doing that, which are significantly more healthier, have a much better way of turning off, the voices. And it's just meditation, it's yoga, it's breathing, it's all of those things. And I wish I would have known that when I was younger, because while I was very successful, I've always worked hard and played hard. And that's come, as I say now, it's having a detrimental effect on my health.
And I love what you're saying. I love what you're saying about the wheel of life, actually. So for those who don't know what it is, it's a coaching tool that we often use. And as Shirleyann said, it's got different parameters because you start to look at life holistically. And one of the things actually that I love about that is I feel as if when people think about balance, they do just sort of think about work life, don't they? But they don't break it down into the components of what actually life consists of. And that's why I love concepts such as wheel of life, because as you say, it's you start to think about your relationships with others, relationships to yourself, how sort of physically active you are, your social connections, your career, your purpose, your values. And so you start to see yourself, I think, a little bit more, once again, that word holistically. But you do. And I love what you're saying, because I feel like, yes, I agree with you. I think if I had had that awareness at a younger age, I 100% would have made very different decisions in my life. And that's the power of it, isn't it? I think it's also the power of maybe mixed in with this rest and restoration is reflection and is journaling. Like, it's something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily sort of get. But just that concept of pause, I think what you're saying is the power of the pause, where like whatever that looks like for you, but not distracting yourself through alcohol, online gambling, buying clothes, Netflix binging, porn, whatever it is you do, really pausing and being with yourself, getting into your body, figuring out what's going on for you. That's where the power is, isn't it? To heal, to grow, to flourish. I think to find that sense of balance that you're talking to.
Yeah. And I think it is just a case of constantly asking yourself, what did that teach me? Bad things are going to happen to everybody throughout their whole life. And it's how we deal with them. And if I was to go back, there's probably nothing I would change, despite the pain, despite the difficult situations that I encountered. I probably wouldn't change a thing, because every bad thing that's happened has taught me a valuable lesson. And I would never have learned that lesson without the experience and without so many people, like you say, and I was guilty of it for a time until I started changing my mindset. It is a case of you want to forget the problem, but the problem is a gift. If you see everything, every single situation in your life is a lesson. It's not a problem. It's a lesson. And the moment you change your mindset to think that way, I think it really opens up a lot of personal growth. And when you start growing and like what you were saying, when you do look at the wheel, it's a case of going, well, this is really important to me, but it's really, really low because I'm not prioritizing it. By me understanding what my drivers are in life and what fulfills me as an individual, I've now created a life which has now allowed me to continually grow and surround myself with amazing people. And within that wheel, I didn't have very good friendship groups or community, or I've moved around the country lots. I've lived in lots of different places. I've always worked to capacity. So I was never very good at maintaining good friendship groups. I've got a lot of lovely friends, but I dip in and out. I'm a social butterfly. I'm always busy and I let people down because I'm here doing this and doing that. So that was something I needed to work on as well. And again, by setting up this community, I've been able to set up a group where one of our guest speakers was talking about oxytocin is released when you surround yourself by like-minded, kind people, and you get the good hormones when you are part of a community. And that was definitely lacking in my life for many, many years, because I was always focused on a bigger goal, a personal goal. It was always financial. It was always, moving around. It was job, it was career, but that came at a cost. So it was my health and having a community. And so I've made personal changes, and I've actually looked to fill those gaps.
I love what you're saying, and one of the reasons why I'm excited by what you're saying is, for me, it broadens that concept of rest and restoration and the a balance that you're talking to. Like, again, I think a lot of people think rest and restoration or how do you get more balance into your life? It's breathing, yoga, meditation. It's disconnecting from the world and sort of being by yourself and finding a quiet spot. And what I love about what you've just shared is it doesn't have to be like that, because when you understand yourself, you can get balance and that rest and restoration from being around people. Exactly what you said about, you know that you're a lifelong learner. So actually, even though you're out and you're with people, the act of learning has that restorative effect on your body, because you're feeding your soul, you're feeding your values. And then, as you say, layer that with the being surrounded by like-minded women and that hit of oxytocin. So I love what you're saying, because that the gift of the self-awareness is that we get to define what balance looks like for ourselves. We get to design what actually restores us. And it doesn't necessarily look like sitting on a yoga mat, meditating for an hour, sleeping for 10 hours, because we're all unique and we all need different things. And I think for me as well, we all need different things at different times in our life as well. And so what you're talking to now is what you need in your life right now.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the other models that I've always used throughout my coaching career was Myers-Briggs. And one of the things, when you look at how do people get their energy, do they get their energy from resting and being in isolation? Or do they get their energy by being around people? And exactly what you're talking about, it's really important to recognize what does stimulate you. Because for me, I feel rest and restored when I've been around people, because on the scale I only get energy from being around people. So that gives me that buzz. But like COVID, let's use COVID as an example. Me and my son, who are both ADHD, that isolation, that broke us. That really, really broke us to the point where we just didn't feel like ourselves. We weren't feeding, as you say, we weren't feeding our own needs and our soul. We need people. We need social environments. My ex-husband and my other son are both autistic. COVID was the best time of their lives. They said that because they need isolation and quiet time, being at home was the best thing in the world. Going shopping where people kept their distance. It was, they just wished the world would go back to COVID times, because that met their needs. Whereas me and my other son, it broke us. And that in itself was a huge reflection, but it also helped us reset as a family. And that's why we ended up divorcing, because we had the honest conversation with each other and said, we just can't live together. By having that self-reflection, we've now both given each other the chance of happiness, because together it was just like loggerheads all the time, and love wasn't enough.
How did you get there? Because what you're talking to is such a deep level of, well, I think love. Point one of to have love for yourself and for your family and for your ex-husband. So there has to be love there, I think. But how did you even start that type of conversation or navigate your way through that? Because what you're talking to, I mean, I'm sure that there are so many families out there where, as you said, it is like that, where there's competing needs and it's just not working. And yeah, what happened to even bring that to the fore? And then how did you navigate through that to get to where you are now?
So I think because as I say, I worked as a coach. I was working in the pharmaceutical industry for many, many years, for about 20 years. And while I was a sales rep and an area manager, I was also the coach and the field coach. Because of all that work, I used to come home and I'd say to my husband, let's look at each other on a Myers-Briggs sort of scale. And as I say, whichever we looked at it, whatever format we used, we were opposing. And we just said, is this working for us? Are we going to spend the rest of our lives, fighting with each other? Or when we compromised, neither of us were happy, because the distance was so great between my needs and his needs. We regularly met in the middle, and neither of us were getting what we wanted. So prior to the children, the reason our relationship worked for so long was because without the need to be together, we did loads of things separate. So we both worked and did our own jobs and concentrated on our own careers. We did our everything separate, and we chose to get married because we were happy. But then when we had a family, we realized that we had to do things together. And we were like, oh, hang on a minute. How is this going to work? Because we don't have any shared interests. We don't have anything that we do as like together. It was literally, we were just living with very different needs. But when we understood our needs and how our needs, couldn't fit together, then we, very sensibly decided to split very amicably.
How did you process that? Because that's huge.
Yeah. Oh, we were together for 22 years. It wasn't a decision that we made overnight. We went through lots of counselling and we did lots of work together so that we could try and figure out a way to meet in the middle. And in the end, we just said, we need to separate, and that's it. If you're going to choose a lifelong partner, make sure that you have the same life goals and personality profiles so that you won't have this clash, because it doesn't matter how much you love each other. You just will get to a point where life will create a division.
Yeah, it's so interesting what you're saying, because it's like, we've got all these adages of like opposites attract, but sort of, two halves come together where we make a whole. And actually my learning is very similar to yours. I think when you truly know yourself and when you're showing up in the world authentically, will you actually call into your life, specifically romantically, the right person for you. Because I loved how you described with you and your ex-husband, like the compromise was so huge that actually it wasn't filling both of you because you were so fundamentally different. And yeah, I think that that's the most empowering thing that you can do. If you understand yourself and you go into the world honoring your own needs, I think there's this fear that we're going to be rejected or that we're going to be alone. But actually through that vulnerability, you create much more affirming, fulfilling relationships. What's been the biggest lesson that you've learned in your life?
To focus on happiness as a key to everything that you do. So how can I explain this? I might be happy on the outside all the time, but what makes me happy on the inside? So if we go back to knowing your strengths, it's looking at your strengths, looking at because you can be really good at something, but it might not bring you joy. And then there might be things that, bring you joy, but you're not very good at them. And it's about getting that balance between what am I good at and what brings me joy, and bringing those together and then creating work which comes out of that. And I think, so for me with my business, so I had a career in the pharmaceutical industry for 20 years and I was made redundant about 4 years ago now. While I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, I set up a property investment company and I bought loads of buy-to-let properties. I helped lots of other people buy buy-to-let properties. And when I was made redundant during COVID, I was like, what do I do? And my children were both struggling in school, both were excluded multiple times, to the verge where we were facing permanent exclusion for one of them, and one was on their last warning. I had to sit down. So just got divorced. I'm a single parent living on my own. I've got a mortgage to pay. I had a 6-figure salary job, which I lost overnight because they said I took too much time off for my children. It made me realize that I needed to create a job that gave me and my family flexibility. I need to do something which fulfills my needs personally, mentally and physically, fulfills my children's needs so that I can be present in the way that they need me to show up. But also from a work perspective, what can I do? What can I offer? Where can I add value to the world? And then I decided to set up a company called Home Property Solutions. And now I help landlords from all over the UK and Europe buy affordable housing within Merseyside. I work with the homelessness prevention teams within the councils across Merseyside. And we take the empty houses, we refurbish them, we bring them back into circulation, and we offer long-term, sustainable, affordable housing back to the most vulnerable groups while working in partnership with the councils. So the lessons for me is do what's right, live with integrity, and plan a business that fits round the balance of your life, which involves your kids, your mental health, and, your capacity.
Like, what is the practical ways that you've done that? So, I mean, because I'm really curious, and I'd love if you don't mind sharing, how do you parent?
It hasn't been easy at all. It has been difficult. I think, we keep going back to the same thing, which is really interesting, is the fact that by understanding each of their needs. So my self-reflection has given me the ability and the capacity as a parent to focus on them as individuals. So what is it that they need? What does their best life look like to them? So my autistic child, he's got this big IT suite upstairs, multiple screens, computer. He flies plane simulators, and he just loves living in a digital world. I minimize his social events. So in school, he has a one-to-one teaching assistant. I take him to school. I don't expect him to take the bus because that would break him. That would cause school refusal, or he would have a fight on the bus, so I've had to make changes to, what I want my son to have an education. What do I need to do to make that happen? So I will take the kids to school. They have a disabled pass, so they can I pull up outside the school and they don't have to deal with many people. We've spoken to the school about his needs. So he doesn't do PE. He doesn't go out at break time. He doesn't socialise. He helps in the library. So the school have made adaptations within the school environment to fulfill his internal needs. And when we keep if we keep that emotion and the anxiety down, that naturally keeps the aggression down. So I create an environment which is as calm as possible for him. On the flip side, my ADHD son, so my autistic son's 13, my ADHD son, he just needs to go out. So I just give him as much freedom as he needs. So he goes out but I know what he's like because he's like me, and he needs to be surrounded by people. He needs to explore, so instead of making both of them do the same thing and me saying, right, this is what we're doing today, kids, what I've learned is, right, what do you want to do this weekend? What do you want to do this weekend? Now, it comes at a cost to me because quite often I don't get to do what I want to do. But if it means that the kids are happy and content, then that's how I've learned to parent them, is to understand them as individuals, absolutely understand their drivers and their needs, and give them an environment. The environment is everything.
All I just could think of when you were talking is that adaptability piece, is just learning to be really nimble, and just maybe go with the flow a little bit more. And I'm going to go there. Like, what about you though? How does Shirleyann show up in this picture?
I get joy from helping other people. I get joy from being around people. Now, I do suffer I feel isolated quite a lot, I would say. And for me, my weekends now, instead of feeling isolated at home, I'm creating a new little business where I can help people in my situation and their situation bridge the gaps that are missing in the education system. So because I love learning and because I love giving, I'm spending my spare time bringing that together and creating something.
Yeah, it sounds, well, that's awesome. So I have a closing tradition on this podcast. I ask all my guests, what is something that other people value that you don't?
So I would say sort of like nice clothes, nice shoes, looking, the part. I've made a personal choice not to spend loads of money on shoes, clothes, handbags. I spend them on run-down buy-to-let houses and do them up and bring them back into circulation for people. I would say that's probably the one thing that people have never understood about me. They're like, you work really hard, but you never spend it on yourself. And I'm like, I know, because I don't get joy from materialistic things. I get more joy from going for a walk and seeing a beautiful sunset. I get more joy from traveling and, living, like sleeping in hostels and traveling and seeing the world. I get more joy from having time freedom and things like that. But when it comes to physical, materialistic things that I can hold in my hand, I don't get joy from those things.
My granddad always used to say, there's no pockets in shrouds. And it always really sat with me because, I'm the same. You can't take it with you. When we die, we die. Like, actually, I'm similar. It's about experiences and being in the present and the people around me. That's what I value as well, rather than, the newest car or the biggest house or, the latest designer handbag. I think maybe I did. Did you value that when you were younger? I did when I was younger. You didn't?
No,
you
I've never valued it. No.
Shirleyann, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to the amazing individuals who make great conversations possible. My editor, Stian Moritz, musician Jamie Jenkin, and our incredible guests for their openness. Make sure to check out our website, integrate.net, which has all the resources you need to live a happier, healthier, less stressful life. Sending you so much love. Bye for now.